Welcome to another episode of Harrell Wrestling Talk. I'm Jacob Harrell.
And I'm Jonathan Harrell. And if you haven't heard, the WWE Network is only $9.99 a month. But this week on the episode, we talk about John Cena and Lesnar, since you really haven't seen them very much. We'll also be discussing Batista, The Undertaker, and Scott Hall tweets about a possible new world reunion. But first, let's go back to Monday night. We started the night off with a Authority promo. Got to see a list full of matches: Reigns versus Kane, Ambrose and Del Rio, Rusev and Sin Cara, Ziggler, Cesaro, some tag team matches. Even got to see my team, the Texas Longhorns, take on the Sooners. We even finished the show for a second straight week with Divas of Stephanie McMahon and Brie Bella. What stood out to you the most, Jacob?
As you know from last week, I watched Hulu, so I have no idea what happened with the Texas Longhorns and Oklahoma Sooners. I haven't really had time to look back. I don't know if I want to, because on Twitter, when I was asking some people, hey, what were your thoughts about the Raw? A lot of the fans didn't like it. I think overall, though, I think people love and I do, I'm pretty sure you do, love the angle with Stephanie and Brie, and she pedigreed Nikki. Was awesome. What do you think of that?
I thought both pedigrees, that was just phenomenal. I mean, you had just completely selling out on it, and I thought it was great. I think it's almost to a main event status. I mean, I don't ever see WWE anymore putting two divas on the main event of a pay-per-view, but for a Raw like this, I mean, this is great television. Um, but really, like you said, it was okay Raw. It was a lot of videos. It was a lot of fillers. Hopefully, we will get to a more exciting Raw come on the road trip for SummerSlam. So hopefully we get to see a lot of stuff like that. But other than that, I mean, it was just a normal Raw, really.
Yeah, and also I want to point out Brie definitely could have slipped through that table and chair. I mean, come on here. She's not that big, but yeah, the vignettes, and we'll get into this later. I don't want to get too far into this for our next segment, but yeah, they only go so far. So overall, you're right. It was a good one. It wasn't by any means great. To go off of actually what we were talking about, reports are coming from fans that are getting angry for the lack of Cena and Lesnar appearing on Raw. The history of this feud is basically what's setting up the feud rather than a physical presence of the wrestlers. Can they have this successful setup without seeing both Cena and Lesnar at one time? And do you see this basically being the future kind of main events with some part-timers?
See, this is something new because SummerSlam is supposed to be their second big event of the whole entire year behind WrestleMania. And building up to this event, you have not seen either one of these two people face off again, face to face to each other. Nothing. I mean, and so to me, it's bizarre that they can just throw these promos out here and say, okay, this is what's going to happen. This is what's going to happen. It's almost like one of those where, kind of like on last month's pay-per-view, where you were hoping to see Ambrose and Seth Rollins face off, and then it got dragged on to SummerSlam, and that's what it sounds like it's going to do. But what are you going to drag it on to? I mean, you're going to keep this feud going until WrestleMania? I mean, obviously they can't do that, but I'm curious. Surely they would both have to make an appearance on Monday night on Raw and have some kind of altercation.
Now, do the fans have a right to be angry?
I got to thinking as well. I'm guessing Lesnar's not there. Period. Just
Right.
I'm guessing he's not even in the building. I would say that Cena's doing dark matches. When we were in Indy, we were bummed that Bray Wyatt wasn't on TV, but then he came out in the dark match. I would think Cena, being who Cena is and the way that he presents himself, I'm guessing he's at least doing the dark matches, but I can understand why you'd be upset.
See, I think WWE is using this as a sure bet. This is going to be two big names. Even if they're not there, it's going to be a sure bet. I think this is more of a risk, though, because if this does not go over well, part timers become a huge part of the wrestling industry. This could set up kind of a ripple effect kind of going into the future.
Now, continuing with Monday night, after the Roman Reigns Kane match, Reigns posted a tweet where he needed 6 staples to hold shut his cut that he received above his forehead. Now we've heard that he'll be just fine and he'll be ready to go for the upcoming pay-per-view. But do you think this happens more than what we think? These what seems to be like a pretty big, you know, cut and injury.
Yeah, I don't think they might as happen as much on Raw. I know live events, obviously, with Bray Wyatt had his eye injury. Reigns actually just recently suffered a kind of an eye injury with Orton at a live event where he cut the side of his eye. So the quote unquote most beautiful wrestler in the WWE is Moneymaker is kind of getting injured. So and like you said, I don't think it's that of a serious thing. He'll be at the pay per view. But when do you start saying, okay, Reigns, calm it down a little bit?
I'm surprised that they haven't done that already. Just for the fact of you look at Daniel Bryant, look at um, Bad News Barrett. Cesaro was even on a question where he may have been a little bit more injured. Um, but for them to expect him to pick up most of the lack of star power and be the next big thing, he's got to calm it down and he's got to continue to have big matches, single matches, all by himself. And so I'll be curious to see what happens.
Yeah, I like you said, the Shield really. Let's be honest. Since WrestleMania, the Shield has carried the WWE. They've took that ball and they've run with it. The amount of work and the amount of matches they've had, if you look, it's incredible the amount of matches they've had in the main event on SmackDown. The fact that one of them, you even look at the Money in the Bank, that crazy suplex off the top of that ladder. How have one of these Shield members not been seriously hurt? It's incredible to me that that hasn't happened.
And I know they take this kind of punishment all the time, but it's amazing to me on top of that that you don't see these guys bruised up week in, week out, and in the shape that they are in.
Mhm. Okay, now everyone, listen. This might sound too good to be true, but from what we've read, it is the Phenom, the Undertaker, will appear at Austin's Comic Con in Texas. This will be his first public appearance since losing at WrestleMania to Brock Lesnar. What do you think? Obviously, he'll be doing photos, autographs. If he does a Q&A section, do you think fans will be more interested in losing in the streak or a possible Sting Undertaker at WrestleMania?
I think if he does any kind of interview, takes any kind of questions, it's going to be a bombardment of losing to Lesnar questions. It's going to be, was this planned? Were you hurt? Did you do this in the middle of the match? Say, hey, I can't do this anymore. I think it's going to be heavily on those type of questions.
hmm And I think that that is well worth the money to go to that. Not that we can, obviously, in Indiana, but I mean, Crap, that will sell a lot of tickets just to even get your photo with them because you don't know how much longer the Undertaker's going to be around.
Yeah, and I keep on thinking that maybe Sting, the Undertaker will be up there, he'll be talking, and Sting will just walk out and just stare him down because obviously Sting wants to stay away from the WWE TV, but it's got no problem showing up at Comic Con and showing up on video games. So maybe we'll get to see something good come out of this.
Yeah, and well, with that said, Sting is also reported to be going to. He lives in California, so he'll be at SummerSlam. Not obviously probably on TV, but he'll be there for that. Now, would you be excited for that if Sting stared down the Undertaker at Comic Con rather than seeing him maybe on Raw?
I would be so disappointed, and I think WWE would be crazy to let Sting even in the same building as The Undertaker unless it was an arena for Raw or a pay per view. I think they'd be completely nuts, and be it would be a riot.
Yeah, I've always thought if Sting and the Undertaker was going to have a match, have Sting come down the Raptors, Undertaker standing there in the ring, do the Triple H Undertaker basically, where they don't say a word, you don't even point like Triple H did, just look at WrestleMania sign, stare down at each other, and then bam, instant crowd would go bananas.
Well, it has been announced already that Hulk Hogan will be at this upcoming Raw to celebrate his birthday, but what hasn't been announced is whether the nWo will be making an appearance as well. Scott Hall tweeted teases about a possible nWo reunion. Would you be excited for that, Jacob?
Uh, I would have been excited about that probably 10 years ago. Oh, wait, it did happen 10 years ago. I'm sorry, 15 years ago. I would have been excited for that. But I mean, have you seen Scott Hall? Scott Hall looks awful. The drugs, the lifestyle he lived, it's just not the same. It's one thing to be old, and it's one thing to be old and almost crippled because of your kind of poor choices. I'm sure WWE doesn't want Scott or Steve Nash to walk in the or Kevin Nash, sorry, Steve Nash, him to walk in the WWE because every time he walks in there, he tears his quad. So,
Well, I'm
I mean,
sure that the WWE wouldn't want Steve Nash anywhere near the ring either,
yeah,
but I
that's
think
true.
what you're saying about Scott Hall alone, I mean, that is true. I've seen some matches of him where he was just so high, and this is recent, that he couldn't barely even walk out to the ring, and he had to be carried out there, and I mean, it's just sad. But I think, I would actually enjoy this just for the fact that I'm hoping that it gets pushed as a Monday Night Wars, getting that thing going on the network. Um, Now, one question I've got for you: do you think maybe this year or upcoming soon, do you think the NWO will get into the Hall of Fame?
Ooh, that's a great question. Um, the Wars DVD or the War segment I read was actually supposed to come out here in August, so that would make sense. The NWO will be in the Hall of Fame. I think you need to do it before one of them pass away, or it could be in retrospect the other way around. Say Hulk Hogan would pass away, then you're kind of almost forcing it. But yeah, then you'll have the next person to be like Ric Flair. You'll have two people. Actually, what? No, that'd be three people because Razor Ramon.
I don't know if Diesel is in the Hall of Fame. Is he? I'm
Not
not
that I
sure
know
on
of.
that, but
I doubt it. He
I
didn't spend.
I don't think he is. But I would imagine when they do put them in the Hall of Fame, it would just be the original three. I don't see them adding Eric Bischoff and all these other guys in affiliation with them.
Do you think Eric though would deserve it? I mean, he had a huge.
I I don't know if he's deserving to be in the Hall of Fame. I guess I'm always critical, and this is especially when it comes to like NBA Hall of Fame. I'm
Mhm.
the less guys you put in there, the better, because
Right.
really you start putting in so many people. I mean, they put in like 4 or 5 people every year. Then all of a sudden, eventually, you're going to run out of superstars, and you're just throwing them in because you need another person.
Right, the prestige of it goes away, and it gets to the point, like you said, the NBA. Then you have a guy with average stats. Well, does he deserve the NBA? No, he doesn't. So I agree with you. I'm okay with that. So Batista, he starred in the movie Guardians of the Galaxy, which released last weekend. It set a whole bunch of box office records. I've actually read that Batista did an awful job. No offense at acting in the movie, but overall, it sounded like it was a great movie. He was asked how he felt of as being a quote unquote baby face. He stated, and I quote, "I'm the worst baby face in history." Do you agree with him on that one, Jonathan?
Um, I would have to agree with him just from the watching the Royal Rumble live, and of course at the time it was before the network, so I'm streaming it online, quote unquote, and I just remember like, oh my gosh, if he wins, this is gonna go bad. And I almost wish it was like a flashback. You could put him in like the 1997s where you had Hogan coming out there and doing the leg drop on Macho Man, and people were throwing their beer into the ring. People were throwing toilet paper. I mean, I think that that was almost a moment that deserved it, and I just can't. I it had to be part of the story to for him to be a supposed baby face and then come out the way it did.
Yeah, it he see the way I looked at the whole Batista situation is I don't even think even in his prime he was kind of mooching off of the evolution a little bit. He really hasn't been that popular if you really ask me. If you set him aside from evolution and you look at his body of work, I don't really think he's ever been that popular. I just think Triple H has thought so highly of him that he's always been pushed in this main event status. So, give me someone else that you see as a baby face that would be in that category of worst baby faces ever.
Man, I
That's a
don't.
hard one.
That is a very hard one. Um, I'm not really sure.
Maybe the hero, that would be awful. I mean, see, because you have those blunders, but I'm trying to think of a hero that never really got over with the crowd, and we'll have to think about that one, and kind of go back with that. I don't know. I think Sheamus would be up there. Now he gets over with the crowd, but I've never been a Sheamus guy by any means.
Now, real quick, if you've got to sit through a 3-hour movie, would you rather Batista be the star or John Cena be the star of the movie?
Oh man, that's a great question. I would have to I mean, Batista was on Smallville, and I obviously loved Smallville back in the day, and that was awful. I would honestly say John Cena, just because the Marine was actually tolerable to watch, the original one. That said, if John Cena died, that would make it even better. But yeah, I would say John Cena over over Batista.
Well, if you've been watching any WWE TV, you know that the WWE Network is available. But what you may not know is that it's really only available in the United States. But that's all going to change on August 12th when the network expands worldwide. Is this going to help the WWE's cost?
Uh, well, they're hoping, I'm sure, that it'll add subscribers, which then will turn into more dollars. You would assume that such a big market now, depending on what locations you can receive it in. If you go to China, you go to England, different places that have a high population of people that like pro wrestling, you would almost double the amount of viewership. But I don't know, would it cost more to open it and make this worldwide? Are they getting deeper in that hole?
I see. I'm not really sure. I did read some things about when it releases in Canada that it is actually only going to be a TV channel. It's not going to be streaming. It's going to be on one network or one provider, and it'll basically be whatever you're watching now live on the WWE network for us. It's going to be streaming on TV, and I really think that that's the way they need to go, just to lock some more people in that maybe don't have high speed internet, maybe or have just dish or satellite. And from the talks, I mean, it sounds like they've lost a lot of subscribers that they thought they had just from people uh, they have the 6 month rule, but people putting in a credit card and then canceling that card, and then they get it for the month and don't really have to do anything about it.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that hurts them, it's nice to be able to choose anything you want. And I've said this multiple times. They need to get rid of some of the stuff. Maybe keep the pay-per-views there, the original content, kind of filter it, bring it in 10, leave lose 10. Get it to where when something comes in, it's exciting and it's new. It makes you want to watch the network rather than just being able to, oh, I'm going to watch this today. If you were watching Raw, Triple H said multiple times, the WWE Network is how much? And the crowd went $9.99. They just kept plugging and plugging and plugging away at the WWE Network. Does this help or hurt them in advertising for the network?
I am so sick. This is almost. I'm gonna. It was gonna be my rant, but now that we're talking about it now, I am so sick. We both have the WWE Network. We know it's $9.99. We're over it. Anybody that watches it, either you have it or you don't. We don't need it slammed down our throat. The princess just happened to be leaving the room as Raw was starting on Monday, and heard kind of what was going on, and she like looked at me and she is like, are you like as annoyed as I am, because we know it's 9.99. So I think it hurts it.
Yeah, and that's a perfect point because in advertising, their key demographics, I'm sure they're trying to get is the college age, 18 to like maybe 35, 32. And these people are intelligent people. So if you're trying to reach these demographics, you can't do it in a lazy way like that. I always say original content. I mean, it's okay to say it's 9.99, but when you say it four times in like five sentences, that's too much.
I've thought all day today on how they could fix their problems that the WWE Network is having, and I came up with two solutions, and I got them wrote down. First, they need to get rid of the free trial. I think that hurts them, even if it's for a week. You basically get everything you could binge watch and watch everything that you wanted, and then you're done. You could catch up on past pay per views, then you're done. The other thing is they need to give a discount. I'm almost saying bump the price to $15 a month, but give a discount to anybody that pays in full up front. That way, that's money that they get already. And then if you don't watch it, you don't want it, you drop it, well, you've already got it. This monthly thing, I think, is actually hurting them because people are finding ways to actually back out of it.
Yeah, and I've actually heard that they're doing it now where it's going to be just $20 flat fee instead of a 6 month agreement.
Now, to help with the cost of the WWE Network and really their budget cuts all around, the WWE has announced that they are shutting down their official WWE magazine. Now, this actually saddens me because I've debated and debated on getting the magazine for a while now, and I had an awesome deal, and it was dirt cheap, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna do it. And I got my first magazine like literally like a couple weeks ago, and I brought it and showed you, Jacob, and I was like, yeah. And then you're like, hey, they're shutting this down. So what? But
Hey, we
what do you?
wouldn't be talking about it if it wasn't for this too. That's the amazing thing about it.
Is this going to help the budget cuts? I don't know the numbers on how much brings in, how much goes out, but do you think in the long run this is going to
All
help?
right, let's make some lists here. I think for me, one way to save money, WWE, cut making stupid movies. Just stop. Just stop. The Leprechaun Origins, just stop, WWE. Get away from that. What's something that could save their money instead of doing stuff like this?
See, I almost think magazines are dying, newspapers are dying. I'm uh, surprised that it's still around, really. Hopefully they give me some credit, like, hey, here's $100 for the WWE store, and I'll be, hey, this is a perfect idea. But I have no problem with the movies just because you are reaching more fans, more viewers than just wrestling. The only people that are going to buy the magazine are hardcore wrestling fans. You're going to have people that never even heard of the guy that's playing the leprechaun going and watching this movie or renting the movie just because it's a supposed horror film. And so I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah, but if you look at the statistics, at least from what I've read, I'm pretty sure that Ted DiBiase's The Marine and John Cena's The Marines are the only movies that WWE's made that is solely WWE that's actually turned a profit. Now, they've obviously had The Rock and The Rundown and different movies where they've produced, but the movies they 100% own, 100% go to theaters is not turning a profit for them.
Yeah. So I mean, maybe they just need to. I don't know. Back to the topic, though. I think that in the long run, this is probably the best thing for them. Uh, if anything, they should at least make it a digital. You buy the network, you can have access to it. We're not mailing it out, we're not printing it, but it's a digital subscription.
I'd buy that. For our special segment today, we have our very first female and actually our very first female wrestler. It's the hardcore one. It's Jules Malone. Jules, thank you for coming on.
Hey, no problem. Thank you so much.
So, can you give us a brief description about yourself for those who don't know who you are?
Yeah, sure, no problem. Let's see, female professional wrestler. I'm known as the Hardcore Princess. I'm trained at Squared Circle in Toronto, Ontario. Let's see, I have been wrestling for almost 3 years now. And I've probably done, I don't know, maybe 250 matches in 3 years. And yeah, I have a lot more to go.
Are you born in Canada or are you from America?
I am born in Toronto. Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Best city in the world.
All right. Before we go to the next question, can you give us what would the announcers say when you come to your ring? Can you give your ring call? How they describe you when you come out?
Let's see. They would just normally say she's fighting, not wrestling. I'm fighting out of Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Hardcore Princess, Jules Malone. That's all they say. But they say it a lot better than me. They have more energy. That's their job. I'm just ready to kick people's asses.
There you go. Now, did you grow up watching wrestling as a kid then? Is that kind of what got you into it, or?
Yeah, I started watching wrestling when I was probably about 4 years old, and then I've watched it all the way up till now, but I don't watch it as much now on TV.
Who was your most influenced person on when you were younger that kind of wanted to make you want to start wrestling?
I'd say like Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels, Undertaker, absolutely. You know, and then just as like more and more people came on, like as I got older, I like got into like watching them. But I watched the guys because there wasn't very many girls, female wrestlers at the time that when I first started watching wrestling.
Okay. Well, to go off of that, so you were talking about the divas back then. How has the roles changed for the divas or the women in wrestling changed over time? At least have you seen?
Honestly, I think, it's become a little bit more technical. But it really depends on what company that the women are wrestling for it just depends. Yeah, it depends on like the companies, how much money they want to spend on talent as opposed to looks. You know, because I think that makes a really big difference. So, you know, like back then, they didn't really care about like how small the girl's waist was, how big the girl's boobs were, and like exactly, they didn't really care too much cosmetically about what the females look like. So like they sort of more so focused on strength and like wrestling ability. Now it's a little bit different. They manufacture models, a lot of them, into becoming okay wrestlers, as opposed to, you know, like there's some companies that will just hire women on talent and strength and, you know, exactly like being trained exactly as a wrestler, not as something else first and then made into a wrestler. Yeah, so there is a big difference now.
Do you see that maybe there could be more of a change in the future, or do you think that it's almost going to stay this way?
I don't really know. It depends on who they have working for them when it comes to like hiring talent. You know, I'm more so of an optimistic person, so I'm hoping that yes, there will be more focus on wrestlers than appearance.
Okay. Now, when you got introduced to wrestling, were you more of a competitor or were you more of the model type when you got into the industry?
Oh God, no! I wouldn't insult myself saying I'm a model type. No, honestly, because I've been lifting weights since I was like 10 years old. I was the type of girl that years I was the only girl in a guys' league, or in a couple guys' leagues. I was a professional boxer, Muay Thai boxer, slash fighter. And then, when I started watching wrestling or training for wrestling, there was no females being trained at my school. So, yeah, I'm far from the model type that's delicate, and I look good in my outfit, and then I kick the crap out of guys. You'll see me wrestling more guys than you see me wrestling girls, so that sort of says a lot about it.
Now, like you said, we have seen some of your videos, and you aren't, afraid to wrestle with the guys. Was that something that when you started training, with being the only girl, that's just something that you're used to and just that you have no problem with?
Yeah, because as I was just ever since I started participating in sports and wrestling and stuff like that, I've been with the guys, so it's just easier for me, and it's made me tougher because sometimes girls don't like that. They don't like being hit that hard, So it just makes me stronger. So then if I do have to face a girl, I'm throwing them around a lot easier because they're a lot lighter than most of the guys, right?
Yeah.
Now, has that built you more of a following too? Because you're not just stuck in the girls' division.
Yeah, that's what do people call me? They're like, oh, the diva slayer, not your average female wrestler. Far from that. Yeah, just people. I'm not a diva. I'm not.
Now,
I'm not like I'm not a girl. I am a female, but I'm not like. I don't wrestle like a girl. I fight like a guy.
now, what's the worst injury you received from a guy?
The worst injury I've received from a guy. I've had a few black eyes. I've had to land on 1,000 thumbtacks and sort of let that heal. Let's see, my concussions are from girls. Jumping up high. I don't know. Not just black eyes and just healing really deep wounds.
Now, see, that's amazing because, we've seen some of your hardcore matches where there's barbed wire ropes and things like that, and for you to go out there and not get injured too bad, for the most part, we just think that's incredible.
Well, thank you. Sometimes it doesn't matter who your opponent is. You just have to beat them to hurting them or hurting you. So they have you got to outsmart them. Perfect example is 2 weeks ago I was at the JCW show at the Gathering, and they put me. I did the girls show on the Thursday, and then they also welcomed me back for Saturday on the guys show, and I was in a 13-man. What was it? Oh, it was a deathmatch rumble. So I was the only girl out of 13. There was 12 other guys. We all had our own weapons, and halfway through, we found out that we had 2 boxes of 40 light tubes that we got to play with in the ring. And I was the 13th person out, but I was there were 3 other people who lasted in the ring after me, and I broke probably about 10 tubes or something like that. But half of them were all broken before I even got there, and so that's an example. Yesterday I was in a match, and it was a barbed wire table match for a title, and I just actually went through. I just went off the stage through barbed wire table taking a hell driver. So.
Now, how do you get your mindset to go through a hardcore match like that?
Honestly, you just gotta think about survival. All right, well, I don't want to be the one that loses. I don't want to be the one that gets hurt, and I definitely don't want to get scars. So it's just because it's come naturally already to me, being a competitive fighter, it's the exact same situation.
Now, for people that, like us that aren't familiar with maybe the Canadian wrestling, is there much of a difference, or if any, from, wrestling in Canada versus wrestling in United States?
No, it's all the same people.
I gotcha.
It's all the same wrestling. Yeah, honestly, it's all the same. There's no big difference between Canada and the U.S. Just people have different accents.
Now, do you prefer just a standard singles match, or do you actually prefer a hardcore one?
I like to switch it up. It really depends on who my opponent is, but I like to switch it up 50-50 because I like to keep surprising my fans. so people, because I do so many shows, like, so often, I have a lot of new fans that'll see me on this one date, and then they'll think that I'm just a hardcore wrestler. But then they'll see, oh, she wrestles girls in really good companies too. And then she has really good things. And then I'll go back, I'll just switch it up. And I think that keeps people more interested in me, and it keeps me interested in my job.
Now, we really haven't interviewed anybody that's done a lot of hardcore matches. And now, is there a lot of kind of talking before the match with your opponents about, things you might want to do, or is it just...
No, it's more so we find out what the rules are for, like, the stipulations of the match.
And just go out there and, whatever you come up with on the spot, then that's kind of what happens?
We both survive, yeah. We both want to survive. Usually before, we'll just sort of give, like, a handshake.
I gotcha.
See you out there.
Now,
what I mean? It really depends.
I want to know, is there ever been something you did to someone and they just start bleeding and you're just like, oh my gosh, I think I killed them?
No. Well, yeah, like I kick and punch really hard. Like, when I break things off them, I'm just like, like, as long as I keep moving, it's okay. And, like, usually there's a rest there, too. So if, like, they're really, really, really messed up, then, like, I have to go back. But, like, I don't know, I was kicking and punching guys last night. Or not last night, sorry, the night before. And they seemed fine. They kept coming back at me, so that was good. And then, yeah, like, when I'm hitting light tubes over people's faces, they seem to be coming back, so I think they're more mad at me. Like, I do feel bad sometimes, like, when I know I really got them, like, in their mouth and stuff like that, because, like, usually when you punch somebody or kick somebody really hard, they'll fall down. Or, like, they have a certain look in their face when you hit them too hard, and you're like, ugh.
Now, I'm sure you surprise a lot of, the male wrestlers that you're locking up with when, like you said, you're used to it, and this is, you're kicking and punching, and they may look at you and say, oh, what is she kind of doing here, or, in this match, and then you come out and, surprise them.
Trust me, I get hit so freaking hard from guys, it's not even funny. I've been put in, like, 3-way matches with 2 other guys, and, they will start fighting each other and leave me out of it. And then I usually have to break them up, and I'll deck them, and then they'll start going on me, and, like, and those guys will just try to get me out of the situation, like in that little battle royal I did, they're just, like, sort of staying away from me, but then as soon as they turn their back, something's being broken over their head or their back, and then they're like, all right, that's fine.
Now,
and they'll come after me.
Do you have a preferred weapon that if you see it under the ring, or you're going straight for that?
Usually I like to ring something sharp or something that'll break nicely over them. Like I've had, like, a barbed wire dog collar match. That thing was really fun. I'll carry around, like, barbed wire wrapped around my hand, use it like breast knuckles.
Mm-hmm.
Like, people will bring staple guns, and I don't know why, because I usually just break it out of their hand and start stapling them. I've stapled dollar bills to people's and then lit the dollar bill on fire, or I'll pull it out and stick it down their mouth. It just really depends. Like, I like anything that, like, I can beat them with, but then it sucks. Like, I had we were doing this, like, hardcore match, and she was my opponent. It was a tag match. And then all of a sudden I felt something whack across my back so hard, and it hurt so much. And then I look on the ground, and she broke a piece of salami off my back. I'm like, because, like, we're fighting, and then all of a sudden she hits me with this thing. I was like, ow! And she did it again. I was like, ow! And I'm looking down because I'm crawling. I'm like, what's that? And I'm like, did you seriously hear that? And she's, like, coming after me, right? And then she hit me also with, I think it was like an Xbox or a Nintendo, off my head. It's just, like, the weirdest stuff.
Now, do you supply usually the weapons in that situation? Because, like, an Xbox and Nintendo, that seems
like
no,
fans will bring the weapons a lot of the time, so they'll make up their own cute little arts and crafts projects, slightly sadistic arts and crafts. And sometimes, like, that's what you get. Yeah, but sometimes I just collect some of the stuff that the fans will bring, or like stuff from my old matches, because you never know when you can use them again.
Now, do you have? I guess what's your goals for the future? Do you see yourself maybe your all-time goal being in WWE or anything like that?
It's feasible, but I kind of find that I kind of like what I'm doing. I don't want to be restricted just because of what I do.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to be restricted and told, oh, you can't do this, and then like completely change what I worked for the entire time. I don't need to sell out for 3 years only. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I gotcha.
Because of like the type of education I actually have, I'll be doing better off than most of those people in 20 years from now.
Yeah,
realistically.
ECW would have been perfect for you.
Yeah, I've done a couple of shows with a lot of the guys there, and like that's pretty good for me. But I always wanted to be like famous and all this sort of thing. And if it happens, it happens. But really, realistically, it's not necessary for me anymore because I've had a good look at what the industry is like, what happens before, during, and after. That's just my own personal preference. Some other people might like it, but it's not for me.
Fair enough. You as a female, since we never had one, do you think like being a female and you hear all the guys whistling at you and stuff when you're in your matches, does that help you as a wrestler, or does that kind of hinder you?
People will do that, and I'll just usually like turn around, look at them, give them the finger. It's just better when people are actually cheering respectfully. And like I've actually perfect example. There's people that don't know female wrestling, but it's like they'll come out and they will actually start doing the wave like we're boring, and then 2 minutes later we'll stop, and then we'll get the proper respect from them, like proper cheering and stuff like that. But you do have a lot of people who are ignorant. They watch too much Married with Children or something, and they spend too much time watching certain companies on TV that's what they think female wrestling is all about. And so then it's my job to prove them wrong.
Now, do you have any? What kind of upcoming events do you have that our fans, if they're in the area, they could check out?
Okay, let's see. I have on this coming Saturday, I have IWA Mid-South, and that's in Indiana. Next day, I have a show called Eclipse, and that's it's a three-way dance. That's in Oshawa, Ontario. Week after, I have a title match in Kitchener. That's against Olivia Sparks. I'll be doing a show in California on August 31st. And then I probably have about another 12 or 13 more for the rest of the year. So all this other information we found on like my website and on like Twitter and stuff.
Now, are you racking up the frequent flyer miles? Or are you driving back and forth, or?
Yeah, I'm driving. I'm a passenger. I've been flying, but most companies, I don't pay for my flights. Most companies are nice enough to take care of my flights and transportation for me.
Okay. Hold on real quick. So did you say you have an event coming to Indiana?
Yeah.
Well, we're actually based in Indiana. So I'm from Indianapolis.
That's so cool.
He's from Muncie, Indiana. So I'm from Central. He's around the Central area too.
Oh, okay, right on. That's cool. You guys should come out.
Where's it at in Indiana?
I can't remember right now. It's on like IWA Mid-South have their event.
Okay, yeah, we'll definitely look into that.
Yeah, because we were at I was at Queen of the Death Match last month, and that was my first time debuting for them. And I honestly can't remember where it is. I know it's at the same venue.
Well, we'll have to check that out.
Make a weapon for it
sure.
too.
You should, and you have to make sure you say hi.
Now, you did say you've got a website. Where else can our fans look you up at? You said Twitter.
Yep, on Twitter at Jules Malone. I also have a Fans of Jules Malone page on Facebook, and then I also have my regular Facebook page, Jules Malone. Let's see, I also have, if you go onto YouTube and you search Jules Malone, I have about 8 or 9 pages of different matches that I've been in. So if you want to see all the different styles and stuff that I've done for matches, just you can check it out on there too. So.
Okay. Real quick before you go, have you ever won, because you've had matches for titles against guys, have you ever won a title against a guy?
have I ever won a title against a guy? One, two. No, I've only beaten girls.
Okay. Well,
for
if you ever
titles.
do, we'll find out. And we'll bring you back on for that.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, I think a company should put me in another title match so they can watch me win
There you go.
against a guy.
Thank you for just taking some time out of your evening to come on the show, and you're welcome back anytime. And we'll definitely look into the match you got coming up on Saturday.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And make sure you send a link for this. I'd like to share it. I'd like to share it on all my media.
We definitely will. Stay safe and watch out for light bulbs, apparently.
No problem. You guys take care. Bye, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Now, Jacob, since she wrestles girls, how would you feel hopping in the ring with her and doing a little hardcore match?
Oh man, I don't know. She's boxing background, everything else. That would be a risk that I don't know if I'm willing to take. That I have to say that by far is gonna be the most memorable interview we've done so far. by all means, that kind of blew my mind. The expectations of it.
Well, moving on to our third and final segment. We're going to start with what to watch on the WWE Network. We were informed on Facebook. If you like us on there, you can always send us messages. But we had the latest countdown wrong last week. It was actually the countdown of the best Hell in a Cell matches. We also, this week, had biggest backstabs, which should be a good one, as well as WrestleMania Rewind is doing WrestleMania 27 with The Undertaker and Triple H. You got any thoughts on those shows, Jacob?
Yeah, we've both talked about. We've actually watched the Hell in a Cell. That was awesome. I still think marketing-wise, it makes more sense to release it right before Hell in a Cell pay-per-view. But they had some pretty gruesome, almost like death-defying matches because Jericho talked about that pedigree he had at the top of the cage, and he goes, "All I could think of is this cage breaks, I'm dead."
Yeah.
And that's scary.
And then I'm excited to watch the WrestleMania Rewind because I think that was one of the best Undertaker matches that I remember watching for WrestleMania, just because there were so many points in there where I thought, oh, it's over. More times than I thought that the Brock Lesnar thing, it was over with that. Now, moving on to the WWE shop items, we've always said that we're affiliated with them. Check out our website, HWTpodcast.com, and you can support us by buying a shirt, buying any kind of merchandise on there. But Seth Rollins had his first official shirt come out this week. Don't sell out, buy in. What do you think of the shirt, Jacob?
I think that's pretty sweet. It's definitely creative. It kind of, if you kind of put the Rollins and the Reigns next to each other, kind of looks the same. Don't tell anybody though. I said that.
I've been reading a lot on Twitter that it's been getting ripped for just poor laziness, but I don't think it looks too bad. I do agree with you. It does kind of look the same.
Well, they're all getting lazy. Seriously though, if you look at it for the most part, Sting was really sweet, but I mean, not that we're bashing WWE's shop by any means, but they're not like they used to be. Used to be they'd have these huge graphical stuff, but do you think the cuts are kind of cutting from that too?
Yeah. So, but what you're telling me then is the best thing in the WWE shop as of lately is John Cena wear, is what it sounds like you're.
They're reinventing the wheel every time with that.
I'm still waiting for a Stephanie McMahon shirt to get something out there just for her and Brie going at it. We'll get something on that.
I'll make you my bee. Is that what it's going to say?
Yeah, something like that. Moving into birthdays and anniversaries, got two coming up on the on Sunday the 10th. Wade Barrett, which is currently out right now, he'll turn 34. And as we said before, Hulk Hogan on Monday night will be showing up for his 61st birthday. I don't know if he'll go out there and do any wrestling, but definitely a old man as it becomes wrestling years. What about anniversaries for this week, Jacob?
We have an awesome kind of little Monday Night War anniversary, so you'll have to check it out on the internet. On August 4th, 1997, on Nitro, Lex Luger beat Hulk Hogan and the original members of the nWo to win the World Heavyweight title. It was a great moment. Wrestlers from the WCW came in. Even the guy named Glacier was out there to congratulate him. So that was kind of a neat moment I kind of forgot about.
Well, we're going to running kind of tight on time this week, and so we're going to skip our questions, but we are going to give away a WWE DVD to one lucky caller for, we'll say next week. And our phone number, you can find that on Twitter and find it on our website. Call it, leave a message. Make sure you leave your name or some way we know who you are, and like I said, one of the lucky fans will get a DVD for this week. But heading into our final bit, Jacob, want to go ahead and get your challenge, and I'm going to put 30 seconds on the clock and see what you got for this week.
All right, fans, my challenge goes to you. I want you to hijack the WWE Network promotions, okay? Every time from now on you hear, and it's on the WWE Network, boo, boo, just boo it. $9.99, just be like, boo, that's too expensive. Just bash every segment that has to do with the WWE Network. I don't care if you're booing the whole time. Just keep booing, 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 booing.
And that's going to change the price for you? Or just
No, I don't care about the price. They'll get him, hopefully, to shut up about it. Chant CM Punk or something. Well, no, don't do that. You guys already do.
Now, I'm going to, like I said, I was going to do the $9.99 thing as well, but since I kind of talked about that earlier, I was trying to download a video to put on our video preview of Jules this week, and I actually ran into, it's been a long time since I've had one, but I actually got a virus on the computer. Anybody that creates viruses, we need to just take them all or out back, shoot them right in the face, because you're not cool, you're not being awesome because you make viruses, you're retarded. So it drives me nuts, and I took forever to get it off, but I finally got it off, so we're back in business.
We might have to edit that. Edit that part. We're a family show. We like to promote no violence in our show.
Unless you create viruses, and then we're shooting you in the face. Alright, I think that's good.
I didn't know you were going back.
Oh man, I was so fired up because I found the video and I was like, okay, I'm gonna download this
Thank you for listening to Harrell Wrestling Talk. Listen and watch our next podcast every Friday. We would love to have fan interaction, so follow us at Twitter at HWT Podcast, like us at Facebook at HWT Podcast, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, HWT Podcast. Feel free to give feedback, corrections, and any advice is always welcome. We would love to have sponsorships. Contact us at Harrell, Harrell, Wrestling Talk at Outlook.com. Last advice we will give you before we leave: if your girlfriend, wife, boyfriend, or husband says you watch too much wrestling, tell them that's impossible. Till next time, Wrestling World, keep listening and keep watching.